the best players in any sport, whether it's Connor McDavid or Kobe Bryant or whatever, like you can contain them a little bit, but the beast is going to get they're going to get their point. They're going to break out at some point. You're not going to be able to stop them. And it's the same with the monetary system right now. They're trying to contain it. They're trying to rein it in from the highs of COVID, and they are, right? They're raising rates and all this stuff, whatever. But eventually, they're going to have to do it again, and the spigots are going to open, and the rates are going to drop, and the printing is going to ensue. And then everybody that's waiting for this crash, which may or may not come, I don't know, I don't care. My point is, long term, they're going to print more money. They have to.
Okay. First thing we're going to be talking about today is market updates. Tell me what's going on in the world of real estate that you are seeing.
Locally.
The reason why, hold on.
Okay, yeah.
Let's back up here for a second.
Should have started with that. But.
Yeah. I want to fill people in a little bit on some context from what I'm seeing is that things are slowing down considerably. Things are slowing down. The market's slowing down. And they are reducing the amount of immigration, or apparently the amount of, I don't remember if I saw the amount of applications that they're approving or the amount of actual immigration coming into the country, which is, the bears are always mentioning that guys like us will rely on the narrative of Canada allowing so many immigrants into the country, which is propping up the real estate market artificially. And right now, what's happening is, I shouldn't say artificially, you're right. But if it's working, it's working. But the argument for them is that, well, in the event that is the case, well, now immigration or whatever they're doing on their end is slowing. So is that actually the case? Is that what we're seeing right now? What's going on?
Yeah, I think what you're referencing is there was a slowdown in applications.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
okay.
Something like that.
I don't remember exactly what it was, yeah.
I read the same
more
thing.
accurate.
Yeah, but I mean, like, people always say, oh, these immigrants are going to get tired of the crazy housing prices here, or they're going to get tired of this or that, they're going to go to other countries. What other countries? Like, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Like, as many as flaws as Canada has, as many of the things that we both disagree with that are happening here, it's still one of the best countries in the world by far. Mm-hmm. We're inclusive. We have a great, relatively strong political system. We have a free healthcare. There's a lot of attractive things that immigrants would find here that's better than 98% of the countries out there, and we're very welcoming as well, right? We're welcoming immigrants. It's relatively easy to get in here. So I just look at that as absolute fluff. The number of immigrants that are probably waiting to get into Canada is infinite. Right? You know, theoretically, it's going to be as many as they want to come in that are going to come in. 100%. So I don't know. You know, I don't listen to stats like that. They're just worthless to me. Yeah. Could be seasonality, could not even be true to begin with. So that's that. In terms of what's happening in the market, it's seasonality. We're entering the summer months. January, February, March, April, May, for the last 3-4 years has been the most insane time. Nobody's selling. A bunch of people start to get into the market. In the new year, not a lot of inventory. Prices jump up big time, and then we level off into the fall.
Is that typically what you see?
Yeah,
summertime kind of slows down a little bit?
It's been the last 3 or 4 years. So people are going to start not flooding the market, but sellers have been preparing to sell heading into the summer, right? Their kids are getting out of school. They've been talking to their agent. They see the market's picked up. There's going to be a lot more inventory coming onto the market. Buyers are busy doing other things, vacations, weekend getaways. Nobody has anything to do in the winter. All you're doing is sitting on Realtor.ca all day. So these are temporary, like... My point here is that...
Let me ask you this. Are there any stats that come out on Realtor.ca for traffic?
No.
No? I mean, they don't release that kind of stuff? I as someone that's involved in e-commerce, that would be interesting to see.
They wouldn't necessarily know. Like, I would know...
How not? Why wouldn't they know? Of course they would know.
You mean, online traffic?
Yeah,
I thought you meant
traffic.
foot traffic.
No, online traffic.
Yeah, that, I mean...
Because you just mentioned, like, everybody's kind of surfing Realtor.ca.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting, actually. Yeah, I was thinking foot traffic, but...
okay.
My point here is that, like, I always go back to, okay, there might be ebbs and flows in the market. One period's hotter than the other. Prices fluctuate up and down a little bit here and that, whatever. The question is, has the housing crisis been fixed in the last month?
Yeah.
I don't care if the market slows down temporarily or prices take a small dip, whatever. We don't have enough houses to meet.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the relation to a micro slowdown all of a sudden turn into this macro explanation.
Yes, it's so true.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
So true.
It's really interesting to see the arguments that people present because of those situations.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right. You're going to pull up Twitter and, it's slowing down. See, this is what we were talking about, whatever. Now, they might accuse us of doing the same thing, which is, we're using macro and immigration to justify rising prices. Yeah. The reason that we're doing that, though, is because we are in a legitimate, significant housing shortage across the country by the government's own admission. And we know the government doesn't like to admit that. They don't like to say we're 3.5 million homes short over the next decade by 2030. You think they want to say that? It means they failed. So if we were in a balanced market, my tune would change, right? If we were in an equal market, a little bit more or less supply and demand, I would have a different mentality, right? I wouldn't be sitting here saying, hey, prices are going to be going up. I would say, hey, look to buy cash flow. Like, look to buy in strong markets that have drivers, whatever. Like, we would talk a different game. And, of course, we always preach cash flow, but we're coming out here saying, like, frick, the market's way out of balance here. Like, you want to buy solid properties and just hold them. And the reasons why are they're letting in too many freaking people. We're too short houses. It's too expensive to build. You raise rates, lower prices. Okay, now nobody builds, so it exacerbates the crisis. Like, I think we're being rational here when we use this data. I don't come on here and say, there's 20 offers and the market's up $100,000 this month. You better go run and buy. That's not what I'm saying. I never operate like that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that's happening because we are short houses. We are short houses because there's 100,000 new immigrants, a million new immigrants a year coming into the country, and we're only building X amount of houses. So I always bring it back to the fundamentals. Whereas I think people are doing the opposite, which is I don't know. It's like they're looking at macro economics, like interest rates and stuff like that, which ebb and flow and change, and it's at the whims of the government. They could drop rates tomorrow. They could raise rates another quarter. We don't know what they're going to do.
So this is my take on when I see arguments like this. My take on it is, over the last couple of years, we've seen massive manipulation. Massive, like manipulation to the fullest. And I think that the bears, I don't even know what you would call them on that, or like sure. Bears, whatever, the bears in the real estate market, whatever. I think that if there was no manipulation, if there was no government intervention, if typical economics were allowed to play out, that's what would happen.
This is a great summary right here.
Get what I mean?
Yeah.
Those things that they're calling for would actually happen. But what's happening in the market now in terms of immigration, in terms of the shortage of housing, in terms of inflated costs, those things also wouldn't happen.
Well, there's two forms of manipulation. There's monetary manipulation, which is dropping interest rates to basically zero. Flooding the system with money, and then everybody goes nuts and buys real estate. And then there's other policy manipulation like immigration, constraining building and making it difficult, and taxation, right? There's different kinds of manipulation. Are you referring to monetary manipulation?
I'm referring to everything. What I'm referring to is things get manipulated, right? Then it causes, for example, let's use housing as an example. It causes housing to do what it's done, right? But then you have the bears, I guess predicting what should happen in the event, though. And it's almost like they're taking into consideration that there's no manipulation in anything. But there is. So how can you predict what they're predicting? It doesn't make any sense. Sure, you can predict what... In a real economy, it makes sense. You have way too much debt. Inflation is running wild. Interest rates are increasing. Barely anybody can, not barely, but a lot of people are no longer able to afford homes or whatever. There's a solid argument for what I'm hearing. However, what's happening is not what they're calling for. It may or may not ever happen because of manipulation. And I think it's way too difficult to predict.
Well, it goes back to what I always argue is people think that the game is going to stop, the manipulation game. And when I talk about manipulation, the only real manipulation, there's manipulation and then there's policy, right? Immigration, stuff like that. Those are, I separate them that way. Manipulation to me is manipulating the ease of money and interest rates, and letting banks lend more and adjusting the standards, stuff like that. Basically making more liquidity. And they let it get way out of control with COVID, and now they're trying to rein it in. But what they don't understand is that monetary manipulation is a beast, and inflation is a beast, and money printing is a beast. You can contain it, you can control it a little bit, but you can't stop it. It's the monetary system is money printing. It has to be. They would have to go on to a sound money to stop. But that's their biggest weapon, right? All governments around the world is their ability to print money. They would never give it up, right? Imagine them going on to a gold standard, and then the politicians come out and say, oh, we can't just fund whatever we want. We can't just give you all these promises. We can't just give you social handouts. We can't just fund this project and that project and build this school and that school.
You can't go backwards at this point.
You can't. You could. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
that's what I mean.
Yeah. So it's
impossible.
I liken it to like a sports, whatever. The best players in any sport, whether it's Connor McDavid or Kobe Bryant or whatever, like you can contain them a little bit, but the beast is going to get they're going to get their point. They're going to break out at some point. You're not going to be able to stop them. And it's the same with the monetary system right now. They're trying to contain it. They're trying to rein it in from the highs of COVID, and they are, right? They're raising rates and all this stuff, whatever. But eventually, they're going to have to do it again, and the spigots are going to open, and the rates are going to drop, and the printing is going to ensue, and then everybody that's waiting for this crash, which may or may not come, I don't know, I don't care. My point is, long term, they're going to print more money. They have to.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah.
It might be 6 months. It might be next month. It might be 12 months.
It also depends on what your
months.
definition of a crash is, because apparently we've already had a crash, and what did it come down by?
What do we always say? People are waiting for the crash after the market's already crashed. It dropped 25%. The real estate market is like one of the all-time great drops ever in the history of the Canadian real estate market, and people are still waiting for the crash. Maybe that was the crash. Maybe there's further to fall. I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't, we try not to really play that game, because long-term we know the fundamentals are solid, which is supply and demand, and we know that they can only do quantitative tightening for so long.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they're going to do it. It could be a while. They could break something first and then start easing again, and things could get a little bit worse. But in the end, they're going to print more money, and the asset values are going to go higher. That's the game. And because people don't understand the rules of the game, they're just always kind of behind, right? Just like when the banks failed in 08, 09. And then everybody's, oh, you bailed out the banks and you printed all this money and saved everybody and you gave them blah, blah. Of course, the rich people know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not going to allow systemic failure in the banks. They're in bed with the banks, right?
So what happens with all of these guys that are, that we get in arguments or whatever, or we go back and forth with on Twitter or whoever? Like, what's the reason for why what they're calling for won't happen?
I think, I used to be way more scared when I didn't understand money. I didn't understand the game, right? I was just like I was the lowest level investor possible, sitting on the computer and buying stocks and whatever. And all the news cycle would get me into whatever mood it wanted to get me into, right? I would be at the whims of the news cycle, whatever CNBC was saying or CNN, and the world's always so scary. And you turn on social media, it's negative. So the average person, that's their worldview. They get it from outside.
Yeah.
They have no real life experience. They don't own any assets. They're not really investors. They probably just have a house and a bunch of money in savings, maybe some stocks, whatever. They're not really business owners. They don't really understand how money works. They don't understand how corrupt the game actually is. They think the politicians are telling the truth. I just think they're wrong. They don't get it. And the reason I say that is because that used to be me as well. And when you allow the outside to manipulate you, it's very scary.
So what's the argument? Going back to that, what is their argument for why?
Oh, they're gonna this is a. I was talking.
What's the argument for what they're calling for? They're calling for a massive, basically restructuring of liquidity, debt, all that kind of stuff.
Well, right now they're quantitative tightening. So this person says to me,
let me see.
What did I say? I said, because the currency is constantly being devalued, you'll always need more of it to buy more goods, especially limited goods like houses, which end up becoming a store of value, because as they print more money, the asset prices go up, right?
Yeah.
That's in general what I said. And he says, not constantly. Quantitative easing devalues the currency, but quantitative tightening does the opposite. Right now, we're going through a quantitative tightening phase. So you can expect asset prices to come down and crash and all this stuff. And I said, okay, cool. How long do you think they're going to do that for?
I think I saw this post.
Yeah. How long do you think they can keep tightening? Like it might be another year. It might be 2 years. I don't know. It might be 6 months. Whatever. But eventually the money printer has to go on.
Yeah.
We are in a fiat monetary system.
Yeah.
It's backed by nothing. They create it out of thin air. Every time they print money to send to Ukraine, they're devaluing the currency, right? Because the money comes from nowhere. Yeah. Every time they print money to do X, Y, or Z, they're devaluing the currency. And that money that circulates, right? You print $1 trillion, it goes into the economy. It circulates the economy and then it settles into hard assets.
Yeah.
Every time.
All the time.
Every time, right? It goes to the business owner, it goes to the corporations, it goes to the real estate owners, and the middle class and poor are left holding the bag of inflation. Mm-hmm. And they always think that the game's going to stop. And it never does. And there are periods of quantitative easing and tightening. Usually it's like 10 years of
it's a
easing
long time of easing
to 2 years of tightening. Yeah. And then the game continues, right? Because they can't stop. You can't stop. It's impossible.
Yeah.
That's why they target 2% inflation. People think 2% inflation is normal. It's not necessarily normal.
It's also a target. Targets aren't absolute.
Well, it's a target and it's core inflation, which is the most easily reproduced goods and services out there. It is not hard assets.
Yeah, bread, milk, all that kind of shit.
You can't mass produce housing and a lot of other limited goods.
I saw a poster on Twitter the other day, or maybe today or whatever. Somebody mentioned that lumber futures have come down to 2019 or pre-pandemic levels or something like that, and that housing prices always follow the cost of lumber. And that we're going to be seeing, obviously he was trying to justify his claims of, I don't even know who this was, but justify his claims of that housing is going to take an absolute dive.
Look, I don't know. I don't know what the next 6, 12, or 18 months holds, right? That's
just
why
another example of, all of these little nails in their coffin that are going to take housing down. But I don't know how you contain the biggest beast of all, which is supply and demand, which is the most simplest of all economics. Supply and demand is by far the simplest rule in economics. When you have no supply, there's demand, or when you have no supply and there is demand, the supply and cost of that supply increases dramatically.
It's just
when you have too much supply and you have even the same amount of demand, prices come down. It's just, I don't know how much simpler that can get.
So when you're talking about lumber prices, the only his argument has to be, if I'm to take this serious, that because lumber is so cheap, they're going to build way more houses, flood the market with houses, and then the price of houses are going to come down because there's so many more of them than buyers.
I don't even know if that's the actual.
But
I would assume so. Yeah.
No, I don't think that's what he's actually saying. I think that he's just saying that that's a leading indicator that housing prices are going to fall. And what I'm saying is, okay, well, how does that affect supply and demand? Then I'm like, okay, well, then builders can build cheaper. That means they can flood the market. But then if nobody's buying, they're not going to build. And then they're not going to flood the market with supply.
You can't flood the market. It's impossible. Like at this point, you can't even build that much. You can't even build it fast
right. It'd be
enough.
very difficult to. Yeah. And what builder would flood the market with supply and then hammer themselves on prices? Like nobody, just like oil, the oil market, right? The Saudis right now, they're limiting their supply, right? Yeah. They're limiting how much they're going to pump. And
diamond market, like everything.
Of course,
like
right?
It's all monitored.
Why am I going to flood the market with the supply of something that I'm trying to sell? And even used car companies car companies are doing it now. They used to just, build X amount of cars, ship them all over, and they'd sit on lots. Now they're starting to say, hey, you know what? Let's control the supply here.
100%.
I go into BMW to buy a new car, 6-month wait. Either take something off the lot, Audi, same thing. 12-month wait.
Is that right?
If I want this car, 12 months.
Interesting.
And it's making the product more desirable.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? And it's driving the price up higher.
Yeah.
Because it used to be...
And you know what it does too, is it takes the used market with it.
Yeah, well...
Like heavily. Oh, big time, dude.
You mean it goes up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
It takes it with it. Like,
yes.
The used market in cars, housing, it's all based off new supply.
Yeah.
Right? And new homes, new cars. If you can't buy a new car, you have to buy a used one.
And then more demand for used cars.
Exactly. There's more demand for used cars. When there's more demand for used cars, you have to meet demand with price.
Yeah. If I could go to the lot
simple as that.
and get whatever I wanted and then negotiate with the seller because there's so many of them and it's the end of the season, they need to sell them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to win as a consumer. If I go to the lot, they got nothing. I got to take what I can get. Either I go to the used market or I order my car that I want.
Yeah.
And that's, anyways, controlling inventory. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, my point is that using the lumber chart as just kind of a catch-all thing without tying it to actual supply and demand is a worthless argument.
Yeah, it's also lumber's not the only thing that houses are made with. I simply don't know the argument that everybody is making about the housing market and why it's like they're completely disregarding supply and demand. I understand.
It's so true. It's so
I
true.
understand what and how they're saying it. I get it. I understand. Like we're in unprecedented times. And I think the level of unprecedented times that we're in is very difficult to digest.
The further you zoom out, the more difficult it gets to digest.
Of course, yeah.
But when you zoom in to supply and demand, which is the most fundamental factor, I think here's the argument in sum. Housing prices are too expensive. Affordability is at all-time lows. People can't afford to buy these houses.
Yeah.
Therefore, the market has to crash.
Yeah.
But you still haven't gotten to supply and demand.
Yeah.
It might crash temporarily if they, crash the banks and unemployment goes to like crazy unemployment goes to crazy high levels. It might go through a turbulent period, but we're still short 3 million homes. Homes aren't an option for people. They need somewhere to live.
Yeah.
If you have 3 million homes you have to build in the next decade, and that means 3 million families or whatever that are projected to need homes. It doesn't matter what cycle we're in, those homes still need to get built.
Yeah.
And they're not going to get built based on the fundamentals at that pace.
Yeah.
Therefore, long-term prices are going higher.
Yeah.
So it's like all their arguments are temporary. Well, they're raising rates, it's unaffordable. Yeah, for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. For now it is, right? Yeah, it's on the brink.
Yeah, they're bumping in. They keep on bumping.
Yeah, they're going to push it
all the time.
and then we're going to head into a recession. Okay, maybe temporarily, just like all other recessions. Then the game restarts.
Yeah, average recession lasts 11 months.
Yeah, it's a great point, man. People think these recessions are like
forever,
decades and decades, but it's just not the case. It's literally.
So what do you
12 to 18 months?
What are you seeing out there? Like, what are you seeing right now in even like the Windsor market? What are you actually seeing?
It's I would say 25% of our buyers are from the GTA. 25% of my calls are
investors.
No, there are people moving here too.
Is that right?
Yeah, a lot of investors as well. People looking to put their money to work.
Yeah,
but people are moving here on the regular, right? You can't afford a home in.
So what are you telling these investors that are calling from Toronto? How's that conversation going?
Well, a lot of it, I'm not really. It's their agent that I'm talking to, right? So I just sold a duplex to a Toronto agent buyer, and they're a group of guys looking to put some money to work. They looked at all the markets and they find something that is kind of a break even here.
Interesting, kind of a break even.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
It's still better than sitting in cash.
Yeah,
most likely,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So that's a significant portion. The market's still very imbalanced. We don't have enough supply. We have a lot of people that want and need houses. The problem has not been fixed.
Are you seeing still multiple offers? How many on average would you say is on a decent property?
It's easing right now, but 7 to 10.
Wow, still?
Not on everything, right? Depends on the price range and stuff too. But
what's moving the fastest? What's moving the slowest?
0 to 500 is super competitive. 6 to 900 is a little bit of a dead zone, but still multiples.
Really, still multiples.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Prime $1 million plus properties are attracting a lot of action as well.
What would you define as a prime $1 million plus property?
Just locations people want to be.
Yeah.
Size.
Like locations where?
It's subjective. So South Windsor.
South Windsor
LaSalle,
still like quite a bit. Okay.
Yeah. Tecumseh, whatever. All the hot spots.
Tecumseh, LaSalle.
Yeah, but it's still competitive. We expect it to ease heading into the summer, and 2, 3, 4 offers maybe on the good stuff, and a little bit less. I'm not sure though.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of people that aren't gonna sell still.
Yeah.
And there's still the battery plant. There's still the Gordie Howe Bridge. There's still 1,000 immigrants a day coming into the country, settling all over, right? It takes time for them to settle in and look to purchase. The people that settled in last year and the year before are now going to be entering the market. They've gotten their 1 to 2 years of work experience. They're getting pre-approved. Whatever the case is, right? There's so many factors here.
Yeah.
And like I've helped 10 to 20 recent immigrants to the country within the last couple of years, in the past 2 years myself.
Really? Eh?
Yeah, like buy homes, and with good budgets, 7, 8, 900K. A lot of
So
times.
what's the argument with everybody saying that they're coming here without money?
They're ignorant.
They have
People
money.
are immigrant. They have money and they have jobs. The reason they came here oftentimes is because they have a job.
Interesting.
High income earners.
Like define high income earners for
Let's say
immigrants.
dual 100K each.
Really?
you
Eh?
know?
Is that
Yeah.
right?
Tech-
What do they typically do? Mostly tech and stuff
tech,
like that.
software engineer, banks.
Are they newly like fresh out of school? Is that what it is, or is it direct from another country, direct right into
a lot
the
of
job
them
market?
studied here,
Okay.
and then they go into the job market, automotive, whether
Got
it's
it.
here or Detroit. People forget you can go work in Detroit and live here.
Interesting.
Tons of
Yeah,
people do
yeah.
that, right? Thousands.
Interesting.
Then the shift to electric vehicles. I got one of my clients is working on the new electric whatever Camaro or something.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not saying I agree.
Electric Camaro.
So like that's his job, right? And the shift to electric, I don't think it's a great idea or anything like that, but
Yeah,
it's going to
it
be
is
a
what it is.
massive wave of investment. The government's funding it. And people think the government can run out of money. They don't run out of money. They just make more.
They make more of it.
And they will continue to. Like
Yeah.
none of these are good investments, right? You think the shift to green energy is a smart investment?
Yeah.
No, it might make sense to do it, allow the free market to do it over time. But when you're incentivizing it, they're printing money to incentivize it. That money's coming from somewhere. And then guess
Yeah.
what? If you give a $4,000 rebate to the electric car purchaser, the car companies raise the price by $4,000.
100%. Look at what the government just did with the battery plant. They're in this fucking bullshit little argument,
man.
right? And what happens? The battery plant's like, okay, give us more money or we're out of here.
Yeah.
And what's the government going to do? They're going to give more
Doug
money.
Ford already said.
Exactly.
We're
They're
gonna-
going to give them more money.
It's
Where
gonna
does the money come from?
They create it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they
make
might
it.
say, "Oh, we have this budget, we have this reserve fund, whatever." It's created out of
Yeah.
nowhere. Okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't exist. All these budgets are imaginary. It's just the budgets and all these things that they do. They're just ways to contain the beast, right?
Mm-hmm.
To let it. What happened is during COVID, the beast was let out fully. We
Yeah.
all saw the beast.
Yeah.
Still, a lot of people don't understand it.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to put the beast back in the cage,
Yeah.
but the beast is always there operating behind the scenes, which is continuous
Yeah.
supply of money.
In my opinion, they're adding a link to the beast chain continuously. Just there's links being added, links,
And, yeah.
and that chain's getting longer and
Yes,
longer
yes,
and
yes.
longer and longer.
Which here's the sum of that: the wealth continues to get concentrated into
Yeah.
the hands of the wealthy because
sure.
it just happens more and more. The pockets of the wealthy become bigger and bigger.
And what happens is you have the pole that the beast is chained to, and you have poverty right at the pole.
Yes.
The beast is eating everyone and everybody as that link and
Yes,
those chains
yes,
get added.
yes.
And until that radius is so big, it's only the wealthy outside of the range of the beast.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
And here's the thing: the wealthy, the beast can't really touch them because
Yeah.
the wealthy are
They're the shot callers.
they're the shot callers and they have the tools to defend themselves
Yeah,
against
that's a
inflation.
good point too,
They
yeah.
have the assets. They're the business owners, the real estate owners, the asset owners, and there are turbulent
Yeah.
times of fluctuation. There are times when the billionaire loses $150 million in net worth.
Net worth, not
But
realized.
he's still worth
Yeah, not realized
$850 million.
worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, right? Like there are periods of turbulent time, but
Yeah.
he's still $100 millionaire. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
he's got corporations, he's got ways to protect his money, he's got the assets tied up, he's got things
sure.
working for him.
Yeah.
He only declares X amount of income so the tax man can't get him.
Yeah.
It's the beast that's eating. That's a great analogy. It's just
Yeah.
eating away at everybody. And
Yeah.
here's the thing.
As that radius gets bigger.
The government comes out and tells everybody that the beast is under control and the rich people are evil and we're going after rich people. We're going to do affordable housing. We're going to fix all these problems. But it never happens. So it keeps the middle class and poor in subjection.
And hopeful.
Believing that the government actually cares about them.
Yeah.
But they don't. They care about getting elected
They're
and
pandering
votes.
to you.
They're pandering to you and it works.
Yeah.
And go ahead. I don't care anymore. I don't care
Yeah.
to argue about it.
Yeah.
I don't care to argue about politics. It's just like, okay, I understand the game now.
Yeah.
Let's go buy assets. That's why we're doing Coachwood Capital. That's
Yeah.
why we own a portfolio of real estate here locally. That's why we're always putting our money to work. That's why we own businesses. That's why we have corporations. Because if you don't, the beast will eat you. You are indefensible
Yeah.
against it.
You,
And
you, you won't be able to get
yeah.
outside of that chain.
You can't. One of the beast is M2 money supply.
Yeah.
This is I looked up the chart the other day. The M2 money supply is basically if you had to sum it up, the supply of printed money, let's call it 7.2% on average over the past like 50 years in the US. That means they're injecting 7.2%. That's the real inflation rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
That's the real. Here's where people get confused. It's not actually the inflation. It's the rate of the devaluation of your currency.
Yeah.
You better have an asset that holds its value, or you're losing 7% a month.
Yeah.
A year. Best you can do, right? That's why the stock market averages 7% returns.
Yeah.
It's matching their M2 money supply. The best you can do is break even.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: you're breaking even against like an average bucket of goods.
Yeah.
You'll never get ahead
Yeah.
to the $1 million waterfront property, to the exotic cars, to the Rolex watches. You can't get ahead by getting 7% returns.
Yeah.
That's the break even.
Yeah.
So isn't it interesting? The stock market average return matches the M2 money supply.
Is it actually 7? I thought it was a little higher, like low double digits, like 10, 11.
I think it's like 7 to 10%.
Is it? Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
It matches the M2 money supply.